Have you ever been introduced to someone? You smile, you make eye contact, you shake their hand, and then almost instantly, their name is gone. Not hours later, not after the conversation ends, 5 seconds later. You're still standing there, nodding, trying to stay present, while your brain is already quietly panicking because that one simple piece of information just vanished. And right now, as you're watching this, you can probably remember the exact feeling. That subtle tension in your chest, the tiny voice saying, "I swear I was listening." And in that moment, something else kicks in. You start questioning yourself. You wonder if there's something wrong with you, if you're rude, if you're careless, if you're just bad with people in a way everyone else seems to have figured out. You replay the introduction in your head, searching for the name like it's hiding somewhere in the room, and the more you search, the further away it feels. What few people talk about is how personal that moment feels, how quickly it turns into self-judgment, even though it happens so fast no one else notices. But the truth is, this isn't random, and it's definitely not a flaw. From a psychological point of view, there's a very real reason why this happens to some people almost every time they meet someone new. Your brain isn't failing you. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do, just in a way that isn't obvious on the surface. There's a clear psychological and neurological explanation behind forgetting names instantly. And once you see it, that sense of shame starts to loosen its grip. Because by the end of this video, you're going to realize something important. This habit doesn't say much about your memory at all. It says a lot about how your mind thinks about what's actually happening in the moment you meet someone new. You're not just hearing a name. Your brain is taking in their face, their tone of voice, the way they're standing, the expression in their eyes. You're reading social cues, deciding how to respond, wondering where to look, how long to smile, whether to seem confident or relaxed. Maybe you're also aware of other people around you, background noise, the pressure to make a good first impression. All of this is happening at the same time in a matter of seconds. From a psychological point of view, your brain has limited space, and when too much is happening at once, it has to choose what matters most right now. What few people realize is that in social situations, your mind automatically prioritizes information related to safety, connection, and social harmony. It's asking questions like, is this person friendly? Am I saying the right thing? Do I belong here? Compared to that, a name is just a label floating through the noise. The truth is that your brain isn't ignoring the name, it's protecting you socially. It's making sure you don't say something awkward, miss a cue, or misread the situation. So it shifts resources toward reading the room and away from storing a single word that doesn't feel immediately essential. That's why you can remember how the moment felt, what was said, even the vibe of the interaction, but not the name attached to it. This isn't carelessness. It's actually a sign of high situational awareness. Your mind is tuned to the dynamics of the moment, not the surface details. And once you see that, a new question naturally appears. If your brain is so busy protecting you in those first seconds, what else is it quietly prioritizing without you even noticing? Now, think about the difference between a name and a moment. You might forget someone's name almost instantly, but you can clearly remember the exact second they made you laugh, or the way you felt understood by something they said. You remember the warmth, the tone, the energy of that interaction. That's not an accident. The brain remembers emotion before it remembers information. From the inside, your mind is constantly asking, did this matter to me? And emotion is the fastest way it answers that question. A name, by itself, carries no feeling. It's just a sound. But a shared laugh, a meaningful comment, a moment of connection, those come with emotion attached, and emotion tells the brain, this is important, keep this. Without that emotional anchor, names tend to float away like loose paper in the wind. What few people notice is that memory isn't about effort, it's about meaning. If there's no story, no feeling, no personal relevance, the brain doesn't really save the file. It lets it pass through. That's why the more neutral or generic the introduction feels, the harder it is for the name to stick. Your brain isn't being lazy, it's being selective about what deserves a place in long-term memory. And here's the reassuring part. This isn't amnesia. You're not losing information because something is wrong. It's simply a lack of emotional context in that exact moment. But that opens up something interesting. If emotion is the key that locks memories in place, what happens when your brain is busy feeling something else entirely when you meet someone new? There's another layer to this that most people never stop to consider. Some minds don't organize people by names at all. They organize them by essence. You might struggle to recall what someone is called, but you remember exactly who they are. You remember the kind of person they felt like. From a psychological perspective, some minds are wired to recognize patterns, energy, and personality, not verbal tags. Your brain is less interested in the label and more focused on the experience. So instead of filing someone away under a name, it stores how they made you feel, what they talked about, the way the conversation flowed, the overall vibe they carried into the room. That's why you can clearly recall that they were thoughtful or intense or easy to talk to. You remember the story they shared, the idea that stuck with you, the emotion you felt while listening. But when it comes to the name, there's just blank space. Not because you weren't paying attention, but because your mind was paying attention to something else entirely. This is where the perspective shifts. You're not shallow, you're not careless, you're actually processing people on a deeper level, beyond surface identifiers. Your brain is building a richer internal picture of who someone is, even if it sacrifices the label attached to them. And once you realize that, another question starts to form. If your mind is choosing depth over labels, what else is it quietly prioritizing beneath the surface? There's also something much quieter happening in these moments, something easy to miss. When you meet someone new, there's often a subtle pressure running in the background. You want to seem polite. You want to come across as interesting, relaxed, normal. Even if you don't feel nervous, there's a low-level alertness, a sense of being evaluated and evaluating at the same time. And when there's even mild anxiety, your nervous system switches into what you could call manage the moment mode. The brain shifts its focus toward regulation, controlling your tone, your facial expressions, your responses. In that state, memory becomes secondary. It's not the priority. From the brain's point of view, staying regulated matters more than remembering a name. So while you're trying to be present, your system is actually busy keeping you emotionally balanced. It's making sure you don't freeze, overshare, or say the wrong thing. And in doing that, it quietly puts new information on hold. That's why the name doesn't stick, even though you genuinely want it to. This isn't a disorder, it's not a weakness. It's a human response to social situations that carry meaning. This happens to way more people than you think, especially those who care about connection and how they come across. And once you see this, it leads to a deeper realization. If your nervous system is taking over in these moments, what else might it be silently influencing without you even realizing it? Here's the turning point most people miss, the moment where everything starts to make sense. Your brain isn't failing at random, it's making predictions, constantly. In every interaction, it's quietly asking one question: will this matter later? From that place, memory becomes selective by design. Your brain constantly predicts what will matter in the future, and it stores information based on probability, not politeness. If a name doesn't feel immediately useful or necessary, it doesn't get locked in. Not because the person isn't important, but because the brain is conserving energy and space for what it believes will be reused. This doesn't mean people don't matter to you. It means your brain values depth over labels. It cares more about understanding someone, connecting with them, and reading the emotional landscape than memorizing a tag attached to them. That choice happens automatically, below awareness. And this is where the emotional weight lifts. You're not weak. You're not careless. You're not socially broken. Your mind is doing what it's always done, filtering the world in a way that prioritizes meaning over surface detail. But once you see that, another question naturally arises. If your brain is this selective with names, what happens when you learn to work with that system instead of fighting it? So what do you actually do with this information? The first step is acceptance, real acceptance. Stop fighting the way your mind works and stop turning a human pattern into a personal flaw. The moment you release the pressure to be better at names, your brain already relaxes, and relaxed brains remember more than tense ones ever do. Then, instead of forcing memorization, you start working with meaning. Ask for the name again without shame. Most people don't mind. In fact, they usually appreciate it. Create a small moment of relevance instead of trying to lock the name into memory through effort alone. A comment, a question, a reaction, that's what gives the name somewhere to land. Let repetition happen naturally. Names are meant to be heard more than once. Your brain learns through exposure, not perfection. You don't need tricks or fake enthusiasm, you just need time and context, and both of those come on their own when you stop resisting the process. This isn't about fixing yourself, it's about working with how your brain already works. When you stop treating this like a defect and start seeing it as a pattern, something shifts. And that shift opens the door to a much calmer way of relating to people, one that changes more than just how you remember names. So, the next time a name slips away, right in the middle of an introduction, remember this. Your brain wasn't failing, it was busy connecting. It was reading the room, tuning into energy, making sense of a human moment in real time. And that matters more than we've been taught to believe. Forgetting names doesn't mean you don't care. It often means you care in a different way. You remember people through feeling, through presence, through meaning. You store moments, not labels. And once you see it from that angle, that old sense of embarrassment starts to lose its power. If this felt uncomfortably accurate, you're not alone. A lot of people walk around thinking they're bad with names, when in reality, they're just wired for depth. If this resonated with you, give it a like. Share it with someone who always forgets names and quietly beats themselves up for it. And if you want more content that helps you understand why your mind does what it does, consider subscribing. Your mind isn't broken, it's just human.